Thank you for joining me, and this is Down the Rabbit Hole with Paper Pumpkin. So my name is Tina Kavrigich. I am Northern Stamper and I'm located in Canada. So if you have any questions and you are Canadian and you wish to ask any questions or order any Paper Pumpkin kit, drop me an email at northernstamper@gmail.com. I'd be happy to help you out. Now, Paper Pumpkin is like a little box of surprise that you get once a month. It's kind of like a little Christmas gift, and inside, so they give you an idea of what the stamp set is going to be all about. So, for example, the next one coming up in September, I can see that there's a stamp set with some flowers. Now you can't quite tell, I printed this off in black and white, but it's in a very beautiful color in Lost Lagoon. So this is the color that you're going to get in this next one. So you're going to make some little note cards, and it comes in a very pretty box. You get a stamp set and a little ink spot in Lost Lagoon, and the information on it. So it makes 8 treat packages, 8 note cards. You get 8 envelopes, a Stampin' Spot, a stamp set, a gold foil, and all the pieces that you need to create the next upcoming package. So I wanted to let you know. So the best thing is, if you have a question, you can drop me an email, northernstamper@gmail.com, or you can go on my store and purchase it yourself at a Paper Pumpkin and choose me as a demonstrator. But the thing is, you have to order this by September the 10th. So it's only good until between August 11th and September the 10th. You have to get it in by that. Now, if you love this kit, they are offering an add-on, which is this gorgeous journal that is huge. It's absolutely fantastic. Now, I've noticed that when you go to a paper crafting store or Chapters, the price of that journal is the same price as what you would find on there. So I just wanted to bring that to you. That is the next one coming up, and that will be the first. We will be doing some alternatives with that kit the 1st of October. So the first Friday in October will be From the Heart Paper Pumpkin, this one here. So I just wanted to let you know. If you have any questions, drop me an email, northernstamper@gmail.com. I do apologize that this video is a little late. It was supposed to be on the first Friday of September, but I was a little tied up at that day, so I was unable to do this Down the Rabbit Hole. So I received my Paper Pumpkin. So it is fantastic. I always love getting Paper Pumpkins. I get very excited. And inside you get a bunch of goodies. So let's start off. There are the instructions, and I will have a link to the videos on how to create these cards. And the instructions are inside. Very easy to follow along, so you can follow along and do these according to the instructions that they have. If you flip this package over, they do offer some suggestions on alternatives that you could do. That's in here. It gives you some ideas. But we are going to make our own alternatives, so I just wanted to let you know. So what I had done, this is one of the cards from the instructions, and it turns out very nicely, very pretty. And this is up on Dimensionals. Very nice card. What I like about the Paper Pumpkins is they always have coordinating envelopes, and that is absolutely fantastic. So those go together. And on the back of this, they have a little note about what the flower is the meaning of. It's very interesting to read this. I did not know that. So this is the Forget-Me-Not. Very pretty. And this one here is the lotus flower. Very nice. They have some really great designs on what they have done. And again, the coordinating envelope, there we go, look at that, it is very nice. But what we're going to do is we are going to make alternatives, which means we are going to take the items that are in the package and rework them to something that's a little bit different. Now, this package came with 2 stamp sets, one with the 2 lotus flowers, and a little bit of the Forget-Me-Not, some sentiments. Here's the ink spot. There we go. Pretty peacock, one of my favorite colors. Oh, look at this. I used up all the spool of twine. It has everything that you need. You just need the box. So let's get started on that. We're going to pull out these pieces, the stamp sets, and we're going to use them. These are my leftovers, and there's some embellishments. These are my leftovers, so I can still use these for something else. Let's pull these out. These are great to have, and we're going to use them. So what I do is, once I've finished with some of the paper pumpkins and I have leftover items, I start collecting them all in a box, and every quarter or every 3 or 4 months, what I'm going to do is I gather up all the items and I mush them all together and make alternatives from what is left over. So that is what's in a paper pumpkin kit. Comment below if you've ever had a paper pumpkin delivered to your house. I just love them. You know, when I started doing the Takeaway Tuesdays with kits in August, I absolutely, fell in love with kits. I gotta tell you, I absolutely fell in love with kits, and that is where I'm got this idea for Down the Rabbit Hole, because that's exactly what happened to me. Is I went down the rabbit hole with paper pumpkin and alternative cards, and I just totally got lost and fell in love. So what I wanted to do is I'm going to pull out some of the pieces that we have in the paper pumpkin kit, such as this beautiful little lotus flower. There we go, we got that. What I had done is there are some envelopes, and I had pulled them apart. I already ripped about some of the envelopes apart, but this is some of the ones that are left over. I'm going to use a little bit of this. A little bit of this from the inside of the envelope. Oh, look, there's another one of those lotus flowers. Let's put that aside. Gathering up all of our pieces. Okay. This is a piece of vellum with some printed on it, so that we're going to be using that. This is one of the backgrounds that we had from the paper pumpkin. And if you remember the first card I showed you. Oh, now where did it go? I have to show it to you. That was the background on the first card. So there we go. There we go. So you can see the background on the first card. We're going to be using that. And of course, the card base. We are going to be using the card base on this. Okay. So there you go. That's the items that you need to have. You will need to have some ink and your trimmer or scoreboard, and let's get started. Give me a thumbs up if you are ready to get started. Okay, what we're going to do first, let's move these items off to the side so we don't lose them. What we're going to do is I'm going to start with the card base itself. So it opens, let's call it hot dog. So nice, tall, and long. So let's call that a hot dog. And I'm going to look for, remember that piece of vellum? I'm going to look for that piece of vellum, and what I want to do is I'm going to put that on the bottom part, just like it does in the instructions of the card. I'm going to place it on the bottom here, but what I'm going to do is underneath some of these little, what are they, lily pads? I'm going to place some dimensionals, and I'm going to strategically place them so that you can't quite see them. And what's going to happen is I'm going to place my flowers on top of that along with my sentiment, and I want to make sure I get them in the right place. So I have them. You can barely see them through the vellum, but they will be hidden. Okay, so I'm going to take that off, and I'm going to place that on the card base just like that. Now there's a bit of an edge all the way around. That's what I want to keep. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my trimmer, and we are going to make a score along this card base. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to score it right above where that vellum ends. So make sure when you're scoring that you're doing the scoring and not the cutting blade, okay? So I'm going to score that right above there, okay? And that's going to make a fold, and I'm just going to fold that back. I have a feeling you think if you do a lot of cards, you know what kind of card I am going to be making. Okay, so that's going to sit up like this. There we go, just up like that. And what we need to do is along here is so that the card kind of sits nicely, we need to make a little anchor point on that. And this is where the envelope that I had cut apart comes in. All right, so when you pull apart the envelope, you will see that there is a lot of design inside the envelope itself. So they did a great job. I'm going to show you with the forget-me-not. So if I open this all up, you'll see it's all the way around, and it's the same like the lotus flower. Now, I didn't have any spare envelopes left, but next time I will definitely order more paper pumpkins to show you exactly what I mean. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut that down. It's going to be 4 inches across, so I want to make sure it's 4 inches across, and I'm going to do that first. So I'm going to, let's trim that. I want to make sure it's a nice straight edge, so I'm going to cut one of the edges to make sure it's straight. Let's get up and take a look. Okay, so I did that one, and I'm going to bring this down to about 2 inches. So it's going to be 2 inches by 4 inches. So I'm going to keep going. There's 4 inches. And I want to make sure that's nice and straight all the way around. So it is all straight all the way around, and I have that done up. Okay, so if I take this, I can see 2 inches it's quite big, but we're going to be adding another piece. So don't bear with me, okay? On the piece that is that was the card base comes up. You see, notice this dark piece along the top? We're going to cut off just that little dark piece along the top there. So I'm going to leave that there right now. I'm not going to glue it down because I have some stamping to do on that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that other piece and I'm just going to cut off a small little, maybe about 1 inch off the top there. So I'm going to take that. I want to keep these little flowers that are over here, so I will be cutting them out, so I don't want to cut those flowers. So there's about 1 inch. Okay, and then what I'm going to have left over are these flowers, which I'm going to use. Okay, and I have this dark piece down here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and I'm going to glue this down to that piece of the envelope that we cut out. All right. Oops. All right, so let's get that down. I'm just going to glue that down. Okay. And place it on there. Oops, I'm just lining it up. So it's now attached. And what I'm going to do is I want to add a little sentiment right above here. The reason I added this first is so that I could figure out where my sentiment is going to go on the top part. Now they got some lovely sayings in this stamp set. I love it when they give you 2 stamp sets. And I'm going to use one that actually goes all the way across. I want to use up all that space. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay down that sentiment, and I can see it fits nicely right in the middle, and I can pick that up with my Stampin' Block. Okay. Ooh, that's a really dirty one, so let's not use that. There we go. That one needs to go into the dishwasher. Now you notice that I put the sentiment on my block crooked. I do that on purpose because if I line it up with the block and I stamp, guaranteed it will be crooked. So this forces you to look through the block at the stamp itself to set it up. So I'm going to use my Pretty Peacock. Oh, I need a bigger space. I'm going to ink it up with Pretty Peacock, and I'm going to look. Yeah, it's all set up. Okay, I'm not pressing really hard into the ink pad so that it smushes everywhere. And I'm going to look through the block and stamp straight up and down. Now I'm not going to rock it back and forth. And there we go. You can see it turns out really nicely. There's no halo, which means I didn't rock it back and forth like that and get edges around the top and bottom. Okay, so I have this all set up, and I can add that to the inside of the card. So I'm going to lay that right there on the bottom on the inside. Let's glue that down. I have a nice frame of white around the sentiment and that, so you can see that, it really kind of accents that. Now, this is a little bit higher, so there's two layers, so even if I leave it like that, it kind of will, it'll stop it. But what I want to do, remember those little lotus flowers that I had here? I'm going to cut them out, and I want to place them in the areas here up on dimensionals. So let's cut them out. We're just going to fussy cut them out. So just take your time doing this. And remember, when you're cutting, to move the paper and not the scissors. You're just cutting with the scissors, but it's the paper that you're moving around. It's like you're driving the paper when you're cutting. So I'm just going to kind of go around, make a little halo kind of image around. There we go. I have one, and what I want to do is I want to add dimensionals. I want those to pop up to hold the card in place. So I'm going to add some dimensionals to that, and I'm going to place this one on the edge. See, there's a straight edge right there, so I'm going to line that up and just pop it in there like that. I have one left. Okay, now I'm not going to vandalize or use up the bottom part yet. I'm gonna try and keep as much of the card as I can, because you never know, I could use it for something else, right? So we're gonna pop that, and I'm just gonna quickly cut that flower out also. My idea for the take down the rabbit hole is to use as much from the kit itself and not bring in too many other items other than basic white cardstock. I want to use whatever is in the kit itself, and that is my idea, because they got a lot of great stuff that you can use just in the kit without adding anything extra. So I'm going to pop that over here, and maybe I'll put it a little higher, and there, when the card is open or closed, you can actually have it like this or like that. Now, if you want it to stay up a little bit more, notice these tiny little embellishments. You can add these little clear embellishments. They're really cute. They look like little raindrops. I can add them at the top to also hold the card back. So let's add a couple of these. Okay. Now slide them off. They do slide off really easily. Actually, let's get our pick tool so you can see better. I'm just going to lift that off and place it over here. There we go. Okay, so there we go. We have the portion of that card getting started. Let's get that away. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to finish up the front of the card. Now remember, we had the little lotus flowers here with the open area. What we're going to do is we are going to stamp on that again with one of the sentiments. Let's look at one of the sentiments to see which one fits in there exactly. Now, I love this saying, you are capable of amazing things. That is such a powerful sentiment that they have in here. It's one thing I like about Stampin' Up. Their sentiments are very powerful, and I use them often to make like samplers to remind myself how amazing I actually am, even though I'm the only one telling me that sometimes. You always have to lift yourself up even if others do not, because you know what, you really are amazing and there's nobody else like you. So we are going to stamp that on that lily pad. There we go. Look at that. That is fantastic. Okay, we're going to place that. Again, we're going to get our dimensionals, and we are going to add that to the bottom here. Now, when we add the dimensionals, we're just going to do it along the bottom, because if we do it on the top, we're going to glue our card completely flat, and that's not what we want to do. So let's add those dimensionals to the bottom of the card. Okay. And what we're going to do is I'm going to line it up. So there's the line for the fold. I'm going to have half of that flower go over the fold. So when you open it, just got to make sure it stays on the card. So when you open the card, it will pop up like that. Isn't that great? Oh my goodness. What a beautiful card. Okay? What do you think? And it mails flat. Look at that. What a great card. So that is one alternative. So stick around. I have another one for the Forget-Me-Not flower. Don't go away. Okay? So hold on, and I'll be back in just a second. Okay? Thank you for joining me for card number 2. We are going to make an alternative with card number 2. So what you do need for this one is the card base of the Forget-Me-Not. So isn't that great? Look at how it has the little bits of grass sticking up. So we need the card base for this one. We need 2 envelopes, and what we're going to do is we are going to be taking apart one of the envelopes. So we have the 2 envelopes. Okay, and what we also need is some of the flowers that you pop out from this the kit. So we have that. I got 2. I don't know what I'm going to do. And 1 of the labels, okay? And just in case, we do need a scrap piece of basic white for this, and we will be cutting this down, and I'm going to tell you the size of that as we go along. Okay, so let's get started, and what we're going to do first is actually pull apart our envelope. So I'm going to carefully lift it up, and if you carefully lift it up and you do it slowly, you'll get most of the envelope without ripping it too much. So we're going to open that up, and what we want, is we want a couple of strips out of this, okay? So we're not going to be using too much of this, so that's okay. But what we want to do is we want to get a nice square piece out of this envelope, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually first cut off the edges on here to make a straight edge. Now it's kind of awkward because the envelope is not quite square, so I'm just going to take 1 straight edge. I'm going to pull up as close to the rip part that I am, and I can see it right through the track here, and I'm going to cut that. So there's a nice straight edge. So this piece I do not need. That is going to go in the garbage. This gives us a nice straight edge, and that's what I'm going to look for, and I'm going to take down the rest of the card. So what I want to do, I know I don't need this part, so I'm just going to actually cut some of that off, but I'm going to leave a little bit so that I can use for something else. So I'm not measuring it too much. This is about 7 inches. I'm guessing about 6.5 inches. And I'm going to turn it, and I want to make it 2 inches wide. Now, actually, let's bring it down to 1.5. We're going to make it 1.5 inch wide. Okay? All right? So I have that, and what I need is I need a little bit of this piece here, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually create a mat. So let's get that top piece with little flowers, okay? And let's make that. So if I look at this, I'm going to make it I'm going to make it 3 inches. Okay? And I'm going to turn it, and I'm going to make it, because I'm looking at where the fold is, I'm going to take it back to wherever the fold is, so 3 3/4. So yours may be slightly different, but you want to have like a basic frame here. So I have a piece that makes kind of a frame. So this is 3 inches by 3 3/4. So that is going to make a mat for me. All right. Now, I have this little piece. Okay, got to finish up making my edges all nice and straight. All right. So what I want to do now, let's get this off to the side. I'm going to take this piece, and there's a little fold right here from the envelope itself, and I'm just going to fold it back over on itself. Okay, and it naturally wants to fold, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to glue this together. Okay, I want to glue these 2 pieces together. Even though that little piece is a little bit up a little bit, that's okay, not a big deal. Okay, so I have that. Let's call it like a little fold band. Even though it's a little edge on the bottom and the top, we can trim that down a a little bit to get rid of that white. Now my blade is starting to make the edges of my paper go fuzzy, and that is telling me that it is time to change my blade in my trimmer. Okay, so if you notice, oh come on, that pieces of your paper get a little bit of fuzzy on the edge, it just means that you need to change your trimmer blade to a new one. Okay, so I have this little piece, okay, and there's our little mat. What I'm going to do is, remember we had that piece of basic white and the little flower. All I'm going to do is I'm going to mount that little flower on a piece of basic white. Okay, now this was 3 inches by 3 3/4. What I want to do is I want to make this piece of white just a little bit smaller than that. So I'm going to take it down by 1/4 of an inch all the way around. So for yours it may be a little different. Measure yours and then just take it down 1/4 of an inch. Okay, so if I lay it on there, there's a bit of an edge all the way around, and I'm going to place the flower on, and it still leaves a lot of space. So what I want to do is I want to see a little bit more of that mat. So I'm going to take the trimmer again and even go down another 1/4 inch. So this is totally up to you. I just like to see a little bit more. So I'm just going to take it down. So I rather work in small increments, decreasing the paper, than doing one large cut. So when I do this, it may be that I might be doing 4 or 5 cuts, but it's going to turn out the way I want. So, okay, let's look again. That's looking quite nice. I like that. It's not overpowering too much on the flower. Remember, I had another flower left over. I could even add that on here if I wanted. I could add 2 and kind of splay them a little bit more. It is totally up to you. So I'm not gluing them down yet. I wanted just to get an idea of how it's going to lay down. Okay, so that is looking pretty nice to me. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to glue these together. Now I'm going to be using both sets of these forget-me-nots, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to be doing with it. So I'm going to glue down with my seal the one onto the mat. So I got the white on the mat. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually use both of these forget-me-nots, and I'm going to pop them up on dimensionals, and I'm going to offset them a little bit. So let's add some dimensionals to the back. Okay, I'm going to add it to the first one. Now this is going to make the flower higher as we go along. So I'm going to splay it out one side, kind of off. It's kind of going over the mat a little bit. You can see it's off on the mat a little bit. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my other one, add some dimensionals to the back of that one, and I'm going to splay it the opposite way a little bit. Okay, and I'm going to kind of go like that and have it up a little bit. Now remember, there was some twine inside the little kit. I'm just going to slip that under. You can either just wrap it around and wrap it around like it's a little bouquet. Okay, let's just do that. I'm going to wrap it around. Oh, it looks like a little bouquet. And I'm going to hide the end of that ribbon with a piece of dimensional underneath. So this is the part where you're just going to kind of finagle it a little bit. And I'm touching the flower and the ribbon. Here we go. Just going to trim that back. Okay, and I'm going to make kind of like a bow on the front. I'm going to double this up because I want it a little thicker. And we're just going to make a little bow on this. It's a little short, but let's see if we can make a bow. Sometimes my fingers work better some days than others. I don't know about you. Right. Let's get that bow. Did it work? There we go. Kind of a bow. Kind of a bow. There we go. There we go. We finally got our little bow. And let's add a little dot onto that. I can't seem to get my hands on my little convincing dot, so I'm going to add a little bit of Tombow, little dot, and place that on top. Okay. I'm going to let that dry, and it will be perfect. It'll be just fine. So I'm going to set this aside to dry. Okay. And let's work on the rest of the card. So off to the side you go. Okay. Now we have our card base, and what I want to do is I'm going to take that card base, remember that strip that we had? I am going to do a little bit of a fold. I'm going to fold that in half. You could do it in half. This little piece is going to go under a sentiment anyways. Okay? So I'm going to place it on here. Okay? There we go. And what I want to do is I want to have a little sentiment right about here that is going to cover the end of this little strip of paper. Okay, so remember we had our envelope. Let's see if there's anything from that envelope that we can use. I can use this, and I can have like a frame. I can take my 2 3/8. Oop. Let's see if that fits in. And I'm going to punch that out. And I'm going to sit on top. There we go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp a sentiment on a piece of basic white and then punch that out again. Let's get a piece of basic white. I'm just going to punch out another piece. There we go. And let's look at some of the sentiments that are in that fantastic stamp set. All right. Oh, there we go. I'm going to use that one again. You are capable of amazing things. And I'm going to place that right in the middle. I can see that fits really nicely in there. Okay. And what we're going to do is, again, we're going to use that pretty peacock. Oops. Oh, that was wet. Ooh. And we're going to stamp again. Okay. That's got a little bit of ink on it. So look at that. There's 2 sides to a piece of paper. So let's flip it over. Okay. Going to ink that up, and I'm going to stamp that right in the middle. Voila! Look at that. That's one of the best parts of stamping. I get so excited when I lift that block off, and there is some beautiful, beautiful stamping. What I want to do is, this is kind of plain around the sentiment, and inside here are some really pretty forget-me-nots. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually get another ink pad. Maybe we'll go with some kind of a yellow to pick up the yellow, and I'm going to stamp some flowers around that edge. So let's go take a look for some different ink colors. All right, I grabbed a couple of different ink colors. There's crushed curry, there's wild wheat, and there's crumb cake. Now, I'm not sure exactly which one I want to use, but I want some kind of very gentle type of image of the flower on there, and I know crumb cake works really well on that. Wild wheat may be a little bit too strong of a color, and the crushed curry may blend too much in. So what I'm going to do is I place that flower on the block, and I think I'm going to go with crumb cake. You know what, you really can't go wrong with any color that you choose. So I'm going to place that on the block, and we need a scrap piece of paper underneath. So let's grab a scrap piece, and it's just for this portion that we're going to do it on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ink it up, and I'm just going to take some of the flowers and just kind of pop it on there. And I'm just going to try and clear some of the wording. There we go. All the way around. So the crumb cake is a gentler color, and it won't compete too much with the pretty peacocks. So there we go. That looks fantastic. Let's get our circles together. I'm going to offset it. There's a little bit of a problem there, so I'm going to offset it by that. So let's place those two together. There's the mat on that. Kind of makes it pop a little bit. So let's add that. Going to offset it. And again, we are going to hide that end of the tag underneath. So the only problem is when you're making this card, make sure that this edge is within the confines of the card itself. So I'm going to offset it right about there. Okay, I'm just going to look. That actually looks really nice. And let's take our flowers, and I'm going to hide that. So if I do that, I can see I can take this down a little bit. So I want it there, about there. So you need to play with it, moving it up and down a little bit as you go. So I want it about there. So if I lift this up, I can see the sentiment is going to tuck in a little bit. Let's hold these guys together. Gotta hold them. And let's tape it together so it doesn't move. Okay. I'm just going to tape it together, and now I'm going to glue the bejeebies out of the back. Okay, I want to make sure it stays down. I don't know, what is a bejeebie anyway? Anybody got a comment of what a bejeebie is? So again, I remember it was a little lower, so I'm going to line it up and just pop it on there. Okay, so there we go. We have that on the inside. I can close that, close this, and I'm going to place this on top. Now, when you are gluing, again, be very aware of where you are gluing, okay? So you are only gluing on this little strip of green, okay? Not the whole card, otherwise you're going to glue your card shut. Okay, so I'm going to place that on there. Place that down, there we go. Again, so we can flip it open. Look at that, there's it on the back. If you don't like that, and you want that covered, just cut a piece of basic white and place it on top. You can definitely do that, and it will hide that portion of the backing. Okay? What I'm going to do next is I'm moving on to the sentiment tag for the front. Let's get a sentiment that fits on that tag. And your friendship is unforgettable. Oh, that's such a nice thing. So I'm going to pop that on there. Yes, it fits. I just love how they put it all together. So a kit will always work together. Okay, so again, pretty peacock. Ink it up and stamp. Oh, is it crooked? If it is, flip it over. All right, you'll notice that I put it on one side more than the other, because what I'm going to do is just actually, I'm going to trim off this one piece to make it flush. There we go. And our dimensionals. Can never have enough dimensionals. Let's get that onto the front of the card. And we're going to pop that underneath. Now remember, make sure that your dimensionals or your glue hits the, woo, it just hit the card. And of course, you add your little raindrops here. I got the song, what was that Julie Andrews song from Sound of Music? Anybody know what that song is? If you do, comment below. That's going through my head. You know, something with whiskers of kittens and, oh man, but I know the tune. It's going on in my head there. So I'm going to pop some of those on, and that card is done. So what I did is I wanted to show you at least 2 alternative designs to a card. Okay. Ooh, is that the one I did? I think so. But I wanted to show you another one that I did, and I just didn't have time. This is really cool. You're going to love this. Look at this card here. Check that out. I stamped some of the images. Now, this one is on one of the insides of the envelope. Cut out the little flower, a little back there, pop it over, and you can see there's the vellum there. The back of the inside of the envelope again, I used a little bit of basic white. And there's another card. So I made 3 cards actually as alternatives to this kit. But you know what? I have some more. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show that in a different video coming up in a couple of days from now. So make sure that you follow along and comment below. What do you think of the cards? Which one of these is your favorite? Did you like? Anyways, join me next time for Down the Rabbit Hole with Paper Pumpkin. If you have any questions about getting a Paper Pumpkin kit and want to try it for 1 month, drop me an email, northernstamper@gmail.com. I have to tell you, you are going to love these kits, guaranteed. northernstamper@gmail.com. If you have any questions, comment below which one you like the best, and I will do a random draw from your comments that you have done on this video, and I will send you something out, some goodies. Anyways, until next time, don't forget to get lost down that rabbit hole with Paper Pumpkin and Northern Stamper. Until next time, my friends, stay safe.